Hello and welcome out to our Jitterbit Tech Talk, where we talk Jitterbit Tech. So once again, I just want to thank each and every one of you for coming out today, taking time out of your busy schedule. My name is Jared Stone. I'm Jitterbit admin here at Jitterbit, and today we've got a lot of cool stuff to talk about. As usual, I have my right-hand man, or I guess he's technically on my left, so
I
left-hand
guess
man.
it all depends on how the orientation is. But Corey
That's
Willis
true.
here,
Yeah.
and I head up all of our training here at Jitterbit, and the Tech Talks here produced by our training team, and of course the unsung hero here, Micah Johnson, who's running production for us today as well. A little bit later, we're going to have a special guest on for you, a very really nice treat for us to get to have the remote guests on. But a nice subject matter expert that we're going to have on our topic. But we've got some highlights and announcements before we go into that, right, Jared?
Sure. Jumping straight into our Jitterbit highlights is, you probably saw this come out in some form or fashion, but we had the release of some brand new technology, the Jitterbit Harmony Cloud Studio. So for those that may not know, maybe you missed the announcement of some sort, Corey, maybe talk a little bit about what is Cloud Studio.
Yeah, so Cloud Studio, that's our new release. And I mean, a lot of you are familiar with the designer, the original Jitterbit Studio. That's what a lot of you are using today. It's something that you have to install on your machine. And it's powerful. It can do a lot of great things. But what's out now is the Jitterbit Cloud Studio. Browser-based, you just go out there and you just do your integration designs. And that's really what all of today's Tech Talk is centered around. And along with that, Jitterbit University, we have a brand new course on Cloud Studio.
Exactly. So for many of you, you've taken what we call foundations training, and that's based around, like Corey said, the design studio, your local studio there. Well, we basically took a lot of that information and made the introduction to Cloud Studio training course. So for some of you that are maybe going to be getting into Cloud Studio, this is a great next step for you to go out there and familiarize yourself with this course. It's really comparable with foundations in the fact that it's going to take about 8 or so hours to complete, just to kind of prepare yourself for that. But it's a really fresh, a great new experience, I think, for all of you that are going to be using this, all the user base. So we're really excited for not only the new technology, but the new training opportunities that are coming along. And we will continue to build out more modules and learning opportunities around Cloud Studio. So stay tuned for all of that to come. But kind of shifting back to our topic, let's go ahead and I guess jump right into a short demonstration maybe on how to access Cloud Studio for those that may not know, and maybe just a short example or so.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll dive into that here. Let me see if I can get my screen set up properly for this. And there we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our screen shared out here. And guys, what I want to do is just go ahead and take you straight in, give you a glimpse of this, because I know some of you have probably seen it on some webinars already. Some of you may not have, but we just want to dive in and show you. Okay, so here I am. You guys are familiar with this page. This is the Jitterbit Harmony login. I'm going to go ahead and log into my Tech Talk org that I'll be using for this. And once we're in, you see all your various app cards across here, and right here, Cloud Studio, this is where you're going to access this new design interface. And so I'll click into this, and this is going to take me into where I see all the various projects that I have in Cloud Studio. Okay. I've only got a few in here. I'm going to create a brand new one for us. And again, this isn't really anything super in-depth by any means. It's just to give you a quick glimpse into the platform. And so there we go. There's my project listings, and I've just got a few out here. I'll do new project, and you're going to see this is very similar to some other things that we do. So I'm just going to call this Tech Talk. Let's see, Tech Talk May. And I'll put this in my Tech Talk environment and start designing. And so now I go straight into where I have the design canvas. This is right here in this middle section. This is the design canvas. On the right-hand side is our component palette where we've got our connectivity tab right now. And I'm going to dive right in. All I'm going to do is just something super simple. I'm going to pull some data from a database and do a Salesforce upsert. But it'll give you guys an idea of the flow and how this new design interface works. So first, I'll find my database connector. I'll click on that to configure a new database endpoint. Now, you guys know here in the training world, we like to use Postgres, so I'll choose that. JDBC, server name, I'm going to use the learning sandbox .jitterbit, if I can spell this correctly, jitterbit.com. Database name, I'll just use my personal little database out here. There we go. And type in my password. And just like with Design Studio, we can always test those connections, make sure we typed everything in properly. I see right here, connection success, we're good to go. So I'll save those changes. Now I have a configured endpoint. Well, within that endpoint, we have various activities that we can use, right, Jared?
Mm-hmm.
So here I have queries, inserts, updates, upserts. I'm going to query out of this. So I'm just going to take the query activity and drag that right onto my design canvas. So now I have that. I'm going to go ahead and configure my next endpoint, which is going to be Salesforce. So I'll come down to my Salesforce connector. Now, as you look through this, you're going to see a lot of new icons, a lot of new connectors, and there's more and more coming out all the time. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. But here we go, Salesforce. And let's see if I have all of this the way that I need it. Put in my username, password that I'm going to use, and paste in my security token. And let's see if I did all that. Connection successful. So we did good there. And I'll save changes. So again, I've got the endpoint configured. Now I have all of these various activities available. I'm going to do this as an upsert. So I'll just drag the upsert activity over to the design canvas and drop that into my operation. Now I have to configure each of these activities. I'll start with database and just double click. This is where I configure the query. And again, very similar in many ways to the workflow of the Design Studio today, but we'll just select the individual table that we want, choose next, the individual fields. And again, I'll just kind of go through and choose some of these. Nothing too specific for what I'm doing. Of course, you can always build your where clause out, see your SOQL that's being built, every bit of that. Find your final data schema there, click finished. And now that particular activity is configured. The schema is all configured as part of that because it's part of the database connector. The next thing is to do the upsert. So I'll double click here, move into this and say, what object do I want to work with? In this case, it's going to be account. Choose next. This is going to carry me over to say, do I want to use an external ID? Well, I have one here. It's SAP account ID in this particular org. That'll work for what we want to do. I'll choose that. I'm not going to do SAP. I'll be doing database, but there is my schemas. So I can always review those if I'd like. Click finished. And now I'm ready for a transformation. You don't see it yet. This is one of the nice things with Cloud Studio. It's very dynamic in the way you want to build your operation flows out here and your design pattern. So I'll just hover between here and a new little design block comes up. And I click on that and say new transformation. I could do scripts there as well. And now I'm right in here and I can begin to map. So I'll map the SFID over to ID. Because remember this right-hand side, this is the Salesforce schema.
Sure.
Okay. So now let's come on down. I'm going to skip company for now. I'll put that into field a little bit later. I'll take address over here to billing street. And then I'll take city up here to billing city, state to billing state. So still just a drag and drop interface. Of course, you do have auto map for exact matches. Mine don't really match that well, so I won't be using that right now. There's postal code. And then finally, I'll do country. And then I'll start to scroll down the list. And there I have fax. And so I'll map my fax number across. Scroll down a little more. I'll see name. That's where I'll map company over. And come on down to phone. And I'll do phone. Now, each one of these, of course, there is a little script icon over here on the right. You can always click on that, go into the script mode. But I don't need that right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and return to workflow. And now I have built my operation for upsert. And so I can come on in here and deploy this. And it's going to deploy it out. Of course, I didn't name the operation. We should always do that.
Sure.
Okay, but again, I want to get onto our content, so I don't want to take a lot of time on this. And then, of course, I can come right in here and just say, hey, let's go ahead and deploy this and run it. It's been deployed, so it's just going to go right into run. It's received. This is going to go through and I can always refresh here, let this actually execute, and
Sure.
we can see the results. So it just takes you right over to that log screen. And so let's see if we can, if my agent will pick this up quick enough for what we want here. And let's see here. So of course you can always expand this as this completes. We'll be able to see this. And looks like my agent may not be picking up quite as quick as what I would want for this particular demonstration. But the intention of this is to give you guys this glimpse into the Cloud Studio design interface. And we'll refresh one more time. It's still kind of hanging out there, and that's okay. But let's go ahead and kind of pick up here, Jared. I know
Yeah.
we've had some things come across, right?
They have, and we will. I've answered a few of those questions, but we'll bring them back up just so the entire class. Remember, we'll do some Q&A at the very end. So if you do have a question, you can put that into the Q&A area within Zoom. So be thinking as we're going through this. I know some of you may have not been exposed to Cloud Studio yet, but there's plenty of questions out there. Feel free to ask. There's no wrong or crazy question here.
Yeah.
So definitely feel free to let us know.
And again, just a reminder here with the Tech Talks, we value your questions.
Sure.
We want your questions to come in. But I'll just wrap this up on the screen here. It did complete. The operation succeeded. My records failed. I think that was because of some dependent data that I had in my org, but
Okay.
that wasn't necessarily the purpose of this. This was to give you guys a glimpse of the interface.
So yeah, it's really a really nice learning, well, I guess it could be a learning experience, but a integration experience in building. Totally different from Design Studio, but it's really nice, really refreshing, and very user-friendly. So with that being said, I guess we can go ahead and move into what we're really all here for, and that's to hear from one of the experts in regards to Cloud Studio. He's had a lot of development, a lot of time in this product in creating it.
We've been out there in it a lot, but I mean, what I showed you, our level of expertise personally doesn't go much beyond what I just showed you. So that's why we have our special guest today.
Sure. So today we have Michael Bates, who is our senior project manager. Okay, so he's been in Cloud Studio in and out for a very long time, creating what you just saw there on screen. So now I'm going to go ahead and introduce him. Come, Mike, how's it going?
Good, guys. Thanks for having me on. How you guys doing?
We're doing very well. And you?
Good. Good.
So, Mike, could you just let us know and kind of just tell us a little bit about, your role here at Jitterbit?
Sure. Yeah, I've been at Jitterbit for about a year and a half, and I've been product managing the Cloud Studio effort since I got here. And prior to that, I've been in the integration space for about 20 years and did a similar project before this, actually moving an on-premise product to online, or not moving, but having a new going from on-premise to online. And it's been here a year and a half. Looking forward to this whole project, and glad to be on today.
Very cool. We appreciate you coming on. So what we've done, us and Mike and some of the other team members, we've kind of discussed some of the questions that we've received from many Cloud Studio users so far. We've kind of narrowed it down to a top 5, I guess we'd say, commonly asked questions. So I think what we're going to do is go ahead and bounce right into that. So many users have some questions, and this is going to be more around Design Studio users. Or am I being left out? That's not the case. But Mike, what are the future plans and I guess support for Design Studio?
Yeah, right now Design Studio is going to be around for the foreseeable future. There's no end of life as of right now planned. The whole point of Design Studio, or of Cloud Studio, is it's got new technology underlying it as well. So it's going to allow us to make advancements much more faster than we could with Design Studio. So our core efforts are going to be on Cloud Studio, but Design Studio is still going to be around. We're still going to maintain it. There's no movement to get rid of it at this time. And there'll be plenty of notice when there is.
Very cool. Very cool.
Okay. So here's another one, and I think this is a big question at times, because Design Studio it's quite powerful in what you can do with the traditional Design Studio. We just released Cloud Studio, And with that, there's probably some things out there that Design Studio is capable of with its complexities that may not quite be there in Cloud Studio yet, being that it's an early release. So Mike, if you could kind of go through what are the things that we can do in Cloud Studio today?
Sure. Yeah, and you're right. This does come up a lot with our existing users, and we're, we definitely don't want. It's one reason we're keeping Design Studio around. Certainly not a forced switch over. We want to allow you to have that gradual time to switch. But as far as what you can do, I sort of like to break it down into three major areas, right? As a Design Studio user, you're going to be used to doing things a certain way. Cloud Studio is built on the same platform and the same runtime engine. So it does all the same things, but it is a completely new UI, new technology on top of it to design your projects. So you have to keep that in mind. You're going to be able to do a lot of things, but you might need to do them differently. I definitely recommend using the documentation and the training you guys have to get up to speed on it. And to start with a small project, kind of, ease yourself into it. It's a brand new product. It's, you need to learn it like it's a new product. It's brand new. But it does a lot of the same things, just sometimes differently. So take some time and get to know it. Read the doc, watch the videos, see how to do certain things. If you find that there are those, like you said, Design Studio has a lot of capabilities, a lot of side things, hidden things that are maybe not as obvious. If you're finding those things and you just can't find a way to do it, that's what the ideas portal is for. Different features, things you want to see. But a lot of it's there. Functionality, the core functionality is there. You can do things, you can get the use cases done. So the second major area is there are a couple of areas that we are working on right now currently. And I would say the main ones of those are large and complex schemas. So things that come into play kind of in your EDI use cases, SAP, NetSuite, and some of the other very large schema things. But we're currently working on that and should have that support in the next month or so. So it's really forthcoming. And along with that is we have, I know a common use case for especially some legacy apps is complex CSVs. That's another thing that's on the 90-day roadmap coming up shortly. But really those are the majors, as far as the core capabilities, the abilities are there. And then the last major area is connectivity. So you'll notice in Cloud Studio, we've got a lot more connectors. We've got a new connector SDK framework that allows us to build connectors more consistently and more quickly, and to put that out to our users. So you now have access to that connector SDK and can build connectors. We've got a dev portal, which you can find at developer.jitterbit.com. And that shows our, the connector SDK that we're building the connectors on. So you'll see a bunch more, but there are definitely some that are in Design Studio that are not yet in Cloud Studio. We are currently working on those. Continue to look at the list of connectors we have. That will be growing over the coming months. We're going to be moving over things like Dynamics and other ones in Design Studio. But you'll see a bunch of new ones in Cloud Studio too that we can now build that we couldn't. And I would say that probably right now what Cloud Studio also doesn't have is support for messaging. So JMS, SAP Listener kind of stuff. That is also roadmap coming up. But those are the major items. It's really mostly there. And the reason, just to kind of round out the discussion a little bit, the key capability with Cloud Studio is more people can now do integration. Right? It's a much better, easier user interface, easier to get into. And so, we want to focus on those things first, but we're bringing all these other things on as well in the coming months.
Well, Mike, that's a lot of great information there. I want to actually break some of that down.
Sure.
As we go through. And one thing, we had a question actually come in on this, and I think it's very relevant. You mentioned about that Cloud Studio is running on the same platform, the same backend, the same agents, and everything like that. And so the question came across of, can Cloud Studio still connect to on-premise data sources?
Cloud Studio can absolutely connect to on-premise data sources. It uses the same agents as Design Studio. So you would use private agents, local agents to connect to your on-premise sources and cloud, and then cloud agents can connect cloud to cloud.
Absolutely. So guys, this is one of those key areas where the same architecture of the ability to have cloud agents for your cloud-to-cloud integrations and your on-premise private agents, private cloud, wherever you want to host those, that is still there. The only difference is the design experience. The runtime is still the same. It's still the same platform that you know and love.
Yeah. Very cool. So another question that we had come in from our users is the coexistence between Design Studio and Cloud Studio. I know that's actually a lot of questions have came in about this already. So Mike, could you tell us some about that?
Sure, yeah. So as I said, Design Studio will continue to be around. You can use it. It is, when you hook up with Cloud Studio, you're going to see the same environments you have with Design Studio. So you can use them alongside of each other. You can use them in the same org. You can even use them against the same environments. You cannot use them for the same projects. So the technology is different enough with Cloud Studio that we had to keep them separate. So you'll be able to work on your Design Studio projects in Design Studio, your Cloud Studio projects in Cloud Studio. I'm going to go right on to the natural question that always comes after that is, can I move from one to the other?
Perfect. Yep.
So we are working on a component to allow you to do that migration. There's obviously a lot to it. Okay. So right there, infinite combinations of projects and things that can be done in Design Studio. Cloud Studio is new. We do have a certain amount of capability to do that, but we're not releasing it yet as we add more capabilities from the old, from Design Studio for the import process. But for now, what you want to do, if you need to do a major import project of some sort, you really want to get into it, just contact us through whoever your contact is, through your partner manager, your customer service manager. And we have a team internally that will work with you to figure out what can be imported and and help you on that path. But we are looking to hopefully make that tool available too as it gets developed.
Very cool. Very cool. I think that it definitely does answer a lot of the questions that were coming through the chat in regards to, migrating between Design Studio and Cloud Studio. So if that's you, that's going to come here.
Yep. So some projects you're going to keep in Design Studio. Cloud Studio, if you're doing new projects, is great. If there's certain ones you want to migrate, there's going to be a path for that. Let me pick up on one other thing you mentioned, and you didn't go into depth on it, Mike, but I think that this is going to be key for a lot of users. Yep. In that, one of the things that a lot of people, honestly, they've kind of struggled with over the years has been user collaboration with Design Studio. It's possible, but it's a very tedious process, and making sure that you download the latest version from the cloud and do your work, and then make sure you do your component deploys and just different things like that. And it's functional, but let's be honest, it can be a little clunky at times. But with Cloud Studio, the user collaboration is taken to a whole new level. So Michael, tell us a little bit about the user collaboration side of Cloud Studio.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll tell you about where it is now and where it's going, because I'm pretty excited about it. It's a nice feature. So right now you can collaboratively work with each other on a project. So you and I can be working on the same project and seeing the changes real time. As I make it, you'll see it on your screen, and vice versa. We're just right there. Okay, so check-ins or I guess deploys and things you do want to be careful of those. It's kind of for the real time. I'm talking to you, I'm working with you at the same time. But right coming up, in the next, I can't say for sure, but in the near term roadmap, like one of our big plans for this year is to implement, more deeper collaboration where you can see who's working, not step on each other and get that going. It's definitely a major focus of Cloud Studio. So we've got that initial part in now, and then we're building on that.
So if I'm in there and I'm working with Jared on a project, and say I'm working on one operation stream, he can be working on another, and those are going to pop up on my screen, right?
Yep.
And so it's a whole nother level. There's definitely more to come. We're going to continue to improve in this area, but it's a whole nother level from where we have been with Design Studio. Exactly. That's exciting to me.
That's huge. I think so many times people are overriding certain areas of projects that have been in Design Studio, and this is one of those areas that really focuses on that and enhances, I think, the overall product. So very cool. So to round out this top 5 commonly asked questions, Mike, one of the questions that came in is, what exactly is Connector Builder? At a high level, what is that?
So it's kind of a repackaging of our HTTP connector at the simplest description. What it is we've taken what you can do with HTTP and made it so you can kind of package up a bunch of those settings and configuration things that you do as you set up that connection and hide that from later users. So all they have to do is something like enter a username and password, something like that. And you can very simply, you do that, you build the connector, you upload a logo, and you publish it, and boom, you've got that logo in your palette in the Cloud Studio, and users can pop that open and fill in whatever information that you decide that is going to be visible to them. Whatever fields are going to be visible, they can fill those in. And right now, that is another thing, we're doing rapid development on. That's right now supports basic authentication and anonymous authentication, but we are working on supporting token-based authentications as well.
That's awesome.
Very nice. Very nice.
Well, so let's take a few moments and talk about some of the different resources out there, because obviously there's only so many questions we can answer on this Tech Talk. And there's going to be people observing, watching this Tech Talk after the fact, where we can't interact in the same way that we can with those that are live with us today. So let's talk about some of these resources out there. And we were just talking about Connector Builder. And I know we talk about Success Central a lot, but I want to give you guys some direct links, so to speak, to some of the stuff. So Mike, if you could pull my screen back up again, I've got the Connector Builder Success Central page up right now. So since we were just talking about this, you want more information on Connector Builder, you want a quick overview, just come right out to this page, and you can just Google, okay? That's what we do anymore, right? Just Jitterbit Connector Builder. It's going to take you right to this page. But as we scroll down through here, you see we've got a little video here for a Connector Builder overview, and you've got all kinds of different information here and links into deeper areas of Connector Builder. So that's one that I'll mention. We've got another page out here. If you look on this page tree on the left-hand side, you see Cloud Studio. We've got all this different thing. And I just want to hit some of these topics that are really prevalent. And so connectors is one of them.
Sure.
We've got the connectors page here. And so you can come out here, and as we scroll down, you see we've just got a ton of them out here. You've got your API, you've got your various storage endpoints. As we come down, we've got the application endpoints, things like Box, Cherwell, Google Drive. I believe I don't know if that one's out yet. That may be coming out in the next release that's hitting next week, somewhere in there. These things are just coming out so quickly. It's just amazing. Things like Magento are coming out, Jira, HubSpot. Of course, we've got NetSuite, SAP, Salesforce, all those real common ones. Other things like Slack. That's getting more and more common. You guys are probably seeing the little Slack button on the bottom of my screen right now. It's something we use internally. So take some time, go out here to this page on the connectors and look through, see what's out there. And again, there's more coming. Another big one that I want to mention. Obviously, we're talking about some of the most frequently asked questions with Cloud Studio. We also have a Success Central page of Cloud Studio FAQs. And so that's what I've got up now. Again, you can Google every bit of this. It's all in that Cloud Studio section. But this is huge. Who can use it? Talks about entitlements, things like that. Where should I start? Where can I get help? And we'll talk about this in just a moment as well.
Sure.
How can I build my own connector? There's Connector Builder, Connector SDK, things like that. What version am I using? How is it different? All of this stuff out here and available for you. And so you can leverage those resources there as well. And so let's see, we've talked about some of the other things here. Of course, we've got our typical tried and true, just know that Success Central is out there. That's our full product documentation.
I think it's really important to kind of like what you said, we mention this, every time that we have a tech talk about Success Central. And Mike, I think we might have some next steps that maybe newer users or new joiners have for it that they can see there. But we talk about Success Central so much, but we don't want to downplay its importance. It's extremely important. Anytime that you have a question that comes up, maybe an issue that comes up in your integration lifecycle, I recommend that you go out to Success Central first, because a lot of the time there's going to be some documentation there to help and assist you. And in this case, around the topic of Cloud Studio, there is a ton of documentation. It's going to help you because there is new things like new terminology. What is an activity? Those sorts of things that come up And instead of you know, emailing us and the time in between, go out there and check Success Central. That's a great first step. So let's not downplay that. It's a great resource to have there. Some others that you see on the screen there in our world is Jitterbit University. We talked about that new Intro to Cloud Studio course that we just released on May 1st. If that's something that you're going to be getting into, we definitely would encourage you to check that out. Remember, it's one of these things, all of our courses, in that fact, are self-paced in the fact that, hey, you can start now and you can finish in a few weeks from now. So the only thing that you have to keep in mind there is if you are doing hands-on learning, keep in mind about those learning sandboxes. They are only good for 30 days. You can extend those, but
You can always extend them.
they keep that in mind. So that's really the only thing that really expires there. And then finally, we have the Jitterbit community. Mike mentioned in regards to Cloud Studio about how feature sets will grow as time goes on. This is a new product. So maybe something comes up in your integration lifecycle and you're like, hey, this would be really cool. Well, go over to the community and submit that idea so people can vote on it.
Yeah, and that's what we call the Ideas Portal.
Ideas
It's
Portal.
inside the community. We talk
Exactly.
about this a lot, but if you want to get to the Ideas Portal, go log into community.
That's right.
Then you've got the Ideas Portal. And that's where if you see those things that you've got a feature idea, something that would be very valuable, you think to yourself and to others, go out there, put it on the Ideas Portal. And I'd encourage everybody, go out to the Ideas Portal, see what else is out there. You can upvote the other ideas and interact in that way. I mean, we call it community for a reason.
Exactly. So very cool. So that was our top 5 and some resources that you can have for your next steps going forward. So I think what we can do now, unless Mike, maybe you have something to add, or Corey, you have something to add, we could jump into Q&A. We do have a few that's came across here. And remember, as far as Q&A goes, we've kind of left this rule out there to where we're going to hang on or stay on until kind of the questions dwindle away.
And we will do our absolute best to answer your questions. If we don't know the answer, if we can't get you the answer, we will follow up. That is our commitment to you. Okay. So let me start off with one that I haven't necessarily seen it come across, but I think it's a great question for everybody. In that if I'm in Cloud Studio and I'm out there trying some things, and Mike, this is more of a question for you. What is the best way if I need help? If I experience something unexpected, I can't find documentation on it, what's the best way that they should reach out for help?
Standard help channels are still the way to go. You know, call support, get whatever help you need from them, community, all the standard ones. Yep.
Okay. So like you said, just support@jitterbit.com, shoot them an email, or go through the community to file a ticket, things like that. So if you come across things that you think, you know, hey, it's not quite working the way that I expect, reach out, let us know, and we'll get it filed in.
Very cool. Well, I think this is more of a preferential question that comes across, and Mike, Corey, either of you that might have some input on this, but one of the listeners here has asked, you know, when is the best time to move from desktop to cloud? I think that's more of a, you know, a flexible question depending upon, you know, the situation, but is there a recommendation there?
I mean, for me, I would say, you know, try it out right away. It's there. It's got some great capabilities. There's really no, you know, the only reasons to wait would be, one, if it's just going to take a lot of time to do. Again, that's where maybe you might contact us for some migration help, see if we can help out there. And then, you know, some of those sort of use cases with the super large schemas I was talking about, but, you know, it's whenever you're comfortable, do it now.
Awesome. So here's one, and I'll take this question, and it goes back to one of our previous tech talks where we talked about complex orchestrations, and can we still use things like controller scripts? Yes, you can still use scripts in Cloud Studio. You can still reference things using run operation and every bit of that. So yes, all of that can still be done in Cloud Studio.
Very cool. All right, let's see. Another one that came across here, and Mike, this is going to be kind of in your wheelhouse, is in regards to updates on Cloud Studio. Now, we talked a little bit earlier about how the product is going to continue to grow over time. So how are people going to maybe be updated or informed about those updates?
Oh, about what's coming. So for right now, I mean, it's really going to be release notes. Um, we're going to be doing, right now we're looking at updates every couple of weeks. We're trying to do 2 a month, like one major a month. And then if we have some minors to put out in the middle, we would do that. And so they're coming along pretty quickly. And so those will be put out as we do the releases with release notes right now.
Okay, and I'll do a quick follow-up with that. We did have a question, and just to honor the question, do we publish things like our roadmaps, like a 90-day roadmap or things like that? And Mike, I know the answer to this is no, we don't publish those, but if you do have specific questions, you can always reach out to us. And Mike, I think you offered that they could email you directly, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Michael.bates@jitterbit.com. I'm happy to discuss features and any suggestions and thoughts you have on the product.
Okay.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So this is something that's not necessarily in, I don't know if it's in any of our wheelhouses, but I'll ask the question and Mike may know the answer. But someone asked, is there additional cost with Cloud Studio?
No, it comes, every Harmony license, I believe, has it. It just takes the place. It used to be, a few weeks ago or a month or two ago was download Design Studio link. It's now a Cloud Studio link. Everyone should see it.
Perfect. So nothing's better than, essentially no cost, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
I mean, free is always good, right?
I like free.
But yeah, no additional cost there to the Cloud Studio feature set. It's available today in your subscriptions. Let's see here. One specific one, and maybe Mike, on this one here. Microsoft Teams. I'm assuming that's what's being asked here. Do we know of anything that's currently planned for that as far as a connector?
I do not. I don't know. I don't think that's on the roadmap, but I'd have to look into it. I'm not totally sure. I don't think.
Okay, perfect. So here's what I'll say: Ideas Portal.
Perfect.
Go put it out in the Ideas
Yes.
Portal because that's the best way to communicate directly with the product team about what features you want to see. So go stick that one out there, and that will make sure that it gets up to the people that need to see it.
Yep.
Best way to do it there for sure. So another one that's come across here is talking about performance between Design Studio and Cloud Studio. So Mike, is there any differences in running their integrations between Design Studio and Cloud Studio? I know we kind of hit this a little earlier, but we'll hit it again.
Yeah, I mean, agent-wise, it's the exact same agents. So they're compiled and sent to those same agents. So things are, performance-wise, should be very much the same.
Very cool. Very cool.
Okay. And I think that segues right into one of the other questions here is what's the best way to keep agents updated with Cloud Studio? The same way you do it today with Design Studio. Agents, if you're running the cloud agent, we're going to take care of any of those updates that are necessary. If you're running private agents, then you just watch for those releases and you go out and do your updates. So it's the same way as you're doing it today with Design Studio. The difference here is really just the design experience. That runtime engine, the agents, the platform, all of that's still the same.
Very cool. So another question here which says, what are the plans for version control of Cloud Studio? Since, multiple people can work within a project at once.
Yeah. So Mike, is there anything you can elaborate a little bit deeper there on kind of where we're headed?
I mean, just that we're looking, we're sort of working on that right now. We're kind of looking at sort of a Google Docs-like design of, tracking changes and being able to pick where a version is. But it's very early phases of the design right now. I can't say exactly how it's going to work, but it's definitely, what is closer is just the simple fact we're doing it in phases. First you're going to be able to see a listing of, a reverse chronological listing of changes that's happened. Click on it, highlight it, see it in the UI. Then from there, we're going to figure out exactly how we want the interface to work with version. And if, we may even, we're also considering using third-party check-ins and things like that in versioning. So it's still early phases on that.
Okay, so here's what I'll say to the audience with that as a kind of a button up on it. If there's specifics that you use in your organization that you would love for us to consider, go stick it out on the Ideas Portal.
Yeah.
And again, that's a great way to get those ideas coming up to the team and let them know what would make the most sense to you, what would be the most valuable to you, and that way they've got that input.
Very cool. Well, that's all for questions right now. Remember, if you have a question, feel free to send that over. I believe we can pop up. We said this a few times already, but how you can reach us maybe after today. Coming over to our training queue. That's at training at jitterbit.com.
And that reaches our entire training team here at Jitterbit, and we're here to help you. Of course, you've always got Jitterbit University. The course listings there are continuing to expand. If you haven't checked that out for a while, I'd recommend go log in, university.jitterbit.com. We've even got, there's a kind of a fresh look to it here recently.
Exactly.
That's been updated. But you can go out there, see the courses that are available. Of course, we've got Cloud Studio, Foundations, Core. We've got the API course, and there are more and more and more coming. So go out and check that out. And I'll go ahead and answer one of these questions here, Mike. Feel free to comment here. But do we have a specific roadmap date for things like version control? And I'd say, as Mike said, it's very early in that right now, so I don't think that there would be a date nailed down. But Mike, any insight on that?
I mean, I would just say all the things we're talking about today and advances we're trying to make, we're looking at for we have on the roadmap for this year. So we're trying to get them done. They're coming right up. But roadmaps are roadmaps. Things can change, but that's what we're working on right now.
Okay. I did have one more licensing question that just came in here that, Mike, you might be able to help us with. Licensing isn't necessarily our wheelhouse. I know that's not your predominant either, but you may know the answer to it.
Yeah.
And if we don't, guys, we'll follow up. But since Cloud uses the same agents as Design Studio, do the endpoints count the same towards your subscription total?
Yeah, there's really no difference, again, in licensing. So because the two exist side by side, you have complete access to both apps. They're really it's on the same licensing plan.
Okay.
Very cool. Looks like we had one more come across in regards to, can you create jitter packs and import jitter packs into Cloud Studio? We talked about this a little earlier, but not today, not just yet, but that is coming in the future. So we're kind of working on that. So Mike, anything you want to elaborate?
Yeah, one comment I'll make on that is you do have the ability to export a project from Cloud Studio and re-import it into another Cloud Studio environment. So that is there.
Exactly. Very cool. Very cool.
Okay. And here's another one on the roadmap, and I'll go ahead and address this one, Mike. You may have some color, but if you have specific product roadmap questions, who should we reach out to? Should the CSM be the primary point of contact? I'd say CSM is a great point because they can route. But Mike, any other color on that you'd like to add?
No, I think that's probably the way to go. You can, like I said, if people want to email me and talk about product, I can give them information as well. But it's going to be, I'm definitely interested in talking to people about suggestions about the product questions or whatever, and we can talk roadmap as well.
Okay. And again, Michael's email address, michael.bates@jitterbit.com. Is that correct?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, guys. Well, we are out of questions, and we are right at our scheduled stop. We scheduled these for about 45 minutes, but we're always willing to stay on longer if the questions are there. It looks like we have ran the gamut on the queue here. Michael, I want to say thank you so much for being on. It's always a joy to us to have a remote guest come on. And if you ever want to come into the studios, you are more than welcome.
All right.
That's right.
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. Well, until next time, stay tuned for our next Tech Talk, but you have a great rest of your day.
Have a good one.